On a cold December morning in 1996, the quiet rhythm of Norman, Oklahoma, a peaceful college town, was shattered by a disappearance that would haunt the community for decades. Juli Busken, a 21-year-old dance student at the University of Oklahoma, was preparing to return home to Benton, Arkansas for the holidays. She was talented, full of life, and deeply loved by her friends and professors. The night before her disappearance, she joined friends for a small farewell gathering, exchanging gifts and talking about the trip home. Everything seemed normal. At dawn, on December 20th, Juli drove a friend to the Oklahoma City airport and returned to her apartment around 5 a.m. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. A short while later, neighbors reported hearing screams in the parking lot. One man's voice was heard saying, "Just shut up and get in the car." No one realized those words would be the last clue to Juli's fate. Police were called, but after patrolling the area, they found nothing suspicious. As the hours passed, friends grew concerned when Juli didn't answer her phone or show up for plans she'd made. By late morning, her car, a gray Honda Civic, was also missing. The disappearance of Juli Busken quickly became a source of anguish for her family, friends, and the entire university community. That same afternoon, fishermen near Lake Stanley Draper discovered a body floating near the shoreline. The young woman was partially clothed, her clothes torn. Police soon confirmed what everyone feared. The body was Juli Busken's. The autopsy revealed the horrific truth. She had been raped, sodomized, and shot in the head. The murder shocked Oklahoma and drew national attention. The question that dominated the headlines was simple yet devastating. Who could do something like this to such a kind, innocent young woman? The Norman Police Department launched an intense investigation. Juli's apartment was searched. Her car was found abandoned several miles away, and DNA samples were collected from her body and clothing. Over the following months, dozens of suspects were questioned. Some matched vague witness descriptions. Others had prior sexual assault convictions, yet none of them matched the DNA profile recovered from the scene. Despite the tireless efforts of investigators, the case began to grow cold. It became one of Oklahoma's most haunting cold cases, filled with clues that led nowhere. Over the years, the Busken case became an open wound for the community. News outlets revisited the story each December, and the University of Oklahoma held memorials to honor Juli's memory. Her family, devastated but determined, clung to the hope that one day the killer would be found. Unknown to them, that hope was quietly preserved inside a test tube, DNA evidence stored in a lab freezer waiting for science to catch up. In 2002, a new chapter began. A man named Anthony Sanchez was arrested for second-degree burglary. As part of the booking process, a sample of his DNA was collected. 2 years later, in 2004, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation made a stunning discovery. Sanchez's genetic profile matched the DNA recovered from Juli Busken's clothing. The statistical probability of error was nearly zero. After 8 long years, the mystery finally had a name. Anthony Sanchez, then 29, was a construction worker with a modest criminal record, nothing that hinted at such brutality. But the DNA evidence was undeniable. Additional details soon surfaced. A .22 caliber pistol found in his mother's home matched the bullet retrieved from Juli's body. Nike shoe prints near the crime scene matched a pair Sanchez owned, and cell phone records showed that Juli's phone had been used hours after her death to call numbers associated with him. In September 2004, prosecutors charged Sanchez with kidnapping, rape, sodomy, and first-degree murder. The case reignited public attention. The trial began in January 2006 under heavy media coverage. Sanchez's defense team argued that the DNA sample had been collected unlawfully, violating his constitutional rights. They insisted the case relied solely on circumstantial evidence, with no eyewitnesses to link him directly to the crime. Prosecutors countered that the forensic evidence was overwhelming. DNA, ballistics, footprints, and phone data all pointed to Sanchez. Experts testified that the chances of another person having the same genetic profile were about 1 in 94 trillion. The jury didn't take long to decide. On February 15, 2006, Anthony Sanchez was found guilty on all counts. 2 days later, the sentencing phase began, and prosecutors requested the death penalty. The judge agreed. In June 2006, Sanchez was formally sentenced to death by lethal injection, along with additional prison terms of 40 and 20 years for rape and sodomy. The verdict brought a measure of relief to Juli's family, but also reignited debate about justice and the death penalty in America. In the years that followed, Sanchez appealed multiple times. His lawyers claimed the trial was unfair and that the DNA evidence might have been contaminated. In 2009, the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals rejected his appeal. In 2016, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear the case, upholding his conviction. Yet Sanchez never admitted guilt. In interviews, he continued to proclaim his innocence, claiming he had been wrongly convicted. Later, a dramatic twist gave the case renewed controversy. Sanchez alleged that his own father, Thomas Glenn Sanchez, was the real killer. According to him, his father confessed to the crime before dying. The revelation stirred public debate, especially among anti-death penalty advocates. Defense attorneys requested that Thomas's DNA be compared to the evidence from the Busken case. The state refused, insisting the results were conclusive and uniquely matched Anthony Sanchez. Forensic analysts reaffirmed that the DNA on Juli's clothing and body matched only Anthony's genetic markers, not those of another family member. With no new, credible evidence emerging, the courts declined to reopen the case. On September 21, 2023, nearly 27 years after Juli Busken's murder, Anthony Sanchez was executed by lethal injection at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. Minutes before the execution, the U.S. Supreme Court denied his final request for a stay. Sanchez declined to seek clemency from the state's Pardon and Parole Board, saying he believed the governor would deny it regardless. In the death chamber, he maintained his innocence to the end. "I'm an innocent man," he said moments before the drugs were administered. At 10:19 a.m., he was pronounced dead. Juli's family did not attend the execution, but later released a statement expressing that, while nothing could bring her back, they finally felt some measure of closure after nearly 3 decades of anguish. The case of Juli Busken left deep scars on Oklahoma's collective memory. At the University of Oklahoma, her peers and professors created the Juli Busken Memorial Scholarship, awarded to dance students who demonstrate exceptional talent and dedication. The scholarship stands as a testament to her legacy, an attempt to transform tragedy into inspiration. Friends remember Juli as a kind, disciplined young woman whose love for dance could light up a room. Her memory endures not only through the scholarship, but also through the ongoing discussions her case continues to provoke. The Busken murder became a landmark example in forensic history, demonstrating how DNA technology can revive cold cases long thought unsolvable. Without genetic testing, Juli's killer might never have been identified. Yet the execution also reignited ethical debates about capital punishment and the potential for wrongful convictions. Critics questioned whether every piece of evidence had been handled properly, whether the investigation relied too heavily on circumstantial proof, and whether Anthony's claim about his father should have been taken more seriously. For Juli's family, however, justice was finally served. They thanked investigators and prosecutors for their persistence, but acknowledged that no court ruling could fill the void left by her absence. The pain caused by her death transcended generations, and even after the execution, the sorrow lingered, a reminder of how fragile life can be and how devastating violence is when it invades spaces meant to be safe. Like a college campus, the story of Juli Busken is not only about crime and punishment, but also about memory, perseverance, and the human cost of justice. It stands as both a testament to the power of science and a warning about the limits of certainty. Nearly 3 decades later, her name still evokes both grief and hope. The grief of a promising life cut short, and the hope that her story, though tragic, continues to inspire change. Juli's dance may have been silenced, but in the hearts of those who loved her, she keeps moving, forever graceful, forever remembered.